Jennifer and Candy had been friends since kindergarten, even though the girls had very different personalities, which often caused them to disagree and quarrel. Both of them were also quick to withdraw and play together again. At the school, the girls studied very differently. Jennifer was an excellent pupil, and Candy was always looking at Jennifer's copybook, copying off her homework, and asking her for advice on tests. One day, Candy had cheated off an essay from Jennifer in secret, and the teacher gave both of them F's and said she was waiting for the truth. Candy immediately jumped to her feet and shouted that it was her essay and that she had written it herself. And when the teacher looked at Jennifer questioningly, she just turned white and lowered her head. The teacher knew that Candy herself would never write such a paper, but still, she left Jennifer with a D and gave Candy an A. After school, she stopped Jennifer and asked her once again who really wrote the essay. Jennifer stood silent for a long time, and when it became clear that the answer was no longer worth waiting for, the teacher let her go home. After that case, Jennifer did not want to play with Candy for a long time, but the resentment passed, and they ran and played together again. And again, Candy began to ask to do her test for her, and Jennifer could not refuse. The girls grew older. One day, Jennifer's father returned from a business trip and brought back a very beautiful dress that was just coming into fashion. Candy looked enviously at her friend's new clothes because such dresses were not sold in their town yet, and then she asked Jennifer to try it on. Jennifer, as always, could not refuse. Candy twirled before the mirror and ran out into the yard, and while Jennifer did not see, she deliberately pierced the dress in the most prominent place with a nail. When Jennifer ran out of the house after her friend, she saw a slightly upset Candy. She pointed to the hole and said that she accidentally snagged the fence and tore the dress. That evening, Jennifer cried for a long time, looking at the huge hole, which could hardly be repaired. Parents have repeatedly told their daughter that such a friend would let her down at any time, and even worse problems would be created because she was very jealous. But Jennifer could not break up their seeming friendship and continued to help Candy in her studies. More time passed, and the girls were in their senior year. Jennifer was working hard on her college preparations, and Candy was constantly pulling her to go for a walk in town or go to the movies. "Don't you think about the future at all?" asked Jennifer to her friend. "I am striving to study better, to get out of this town, or have you decided to stay here?" "No, I'm thinking about the future too, and of course, I'm planning to leave too." "You don't look like you're planning," said Jennifer skeptically. "I have another plan," Candy proudly declared, flipping through a page of a fashion magazine. "I'm going to marry a rich man in the city and have a good life." "Yeah, there's a line of suitors at the entrance of the city," laughed Jennifer. "Laugh it up, but we'll see what you achieve with your knowledge that no one needs." Jennifer thought it pointless to continue this conversation and went back to her books. For the rest of the time before graduation, the girl enthusiastically prepared for the entrance exams, while Candy more and more often went out to the city in search of adventures. It was only logical that Jennifer entered the college and became the best student in her course. Her assiduity could be the envy of anyone. She lived in the dormitory, and Candy often came to visit her, inviting her for a walk. But Jennifer was unapproachable. "I'm not going anywhere. I have to study. If you have nothing to do, go for a walk on your own. I really do not understand how you can be so reckless." Candy often mocked her friend and went alone, but her search for a rich fiancé remained a dream. By the end of her third year, Jennifer had met a young man under whose guidance she was practicing. Marcus was serious, well-read, quite attractive in appearance, and they also had many interests in common. When the internship was over, Jennifer was saddened that she wouldn't see him anymore. But to her happiness, he kept inviting her to meetings. On weekends, they often walked in the park, went to the movies, and sometimes he would visit her in the dormitory, and they would share tea and cookies and talk the whole time. Jennifer now had to sit up late at her books because it was too much for her to refuse to go out with Marcus, but she was still an excellent student. One day, Jennifer, as always, refused to meet with Candy because in the evening she had a date with Marcus. They were strolling along the promenade when suddenly Candy's voice rang out behind them. "So you don't have time to walk exactly with me?" Then, without waiting for Jennifer, she held out her hand to Marcus. "My name is Candy, and I'm Jennifer's best friend." "Marcus," said the man meekly. Candy asked one question after another about how they had met, how long they had known each other, what Marcus was doing, and did it as if Jennifer were the outsider here. Marcus answered her questions dryly, as if to make it clear he was not going to have this conversation. And in the end, he could not stand it any longer and suggested they go into a cafe. There, the man ordered coffee for everyone, and when the waiter brought the order, Candy tried to take her cup and dropped it from her hands and spilled coffee on Jennifer's jeans. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Jennifer got angry, remembering the incident with her dress, jumped out from the table, and went to the restroom. Marcus gestured for the waiter to pay, while Candy spoke longingly. "Jennifer was always hysterical. By the way, do you know that she has a boyfriend back in her hometown? He's waiting for her." Marcus gave her an unkind look but said nothing. When Jennifer returned, they quickly said goodbye and left, leaving Candy alone. After this event, Candy began to visit her friend more often, and Jennifer no longer knew how to keep her from herself. Candy often followed them with Marcus, trying in every way to get his attention. And one day she said to Jennifer, "Who else can tell you the truth except me? You're not his type. He'll dump you sooner or later. He's so handsome, and you? Think about it, so it doesn't hurt later. I'm sure you're not the only woman in his life." From that moment, Jennifer began to look more closely at Marcus and felt shy of herself, although she was quite pretty. Now she refused to go out with him more and more often, remembering her friend's words, and she even regretted that she had ever met him at all. Marcus could not ignore such changes in Jennifer's behavior, and also involuntarily began to think about Candy's words. A month later, Marcus invited Jennifer to a movie. The young woman refused, and at that point, the man expressed his suspicions. "Jennifer, if you have another boyfriend, you should have told me right away. I may not come at all, and won't invite you anywhere else if that's the case." Jennifer could no longer hold her suspicions. She said, "It was predictable. You probably have someone better to go to the movies with. People like you don't get lonely." "So you're not going with me?" "No." "All right then." Marcus went out of the dormitory and suddenly bumped into Candy. "Are you leaving already?" she asked coquettishly, smiling sweetly and waving her thick eyelashes. And then the woman, as if she remembered something, added, "Yes, that's right. Today comes Jennifer's boyfriend. Maybe in that case, I could keep you company so you don't get bored." Marcus took a step forward to leave in silence, but suddenly he stopped abruptly, turning to Candy and grabbed her by the arm, dragging her into the dormitory. He rushed into the room to a bewildered Jennifer, who was wiping away her tears, and asked Candy, "What's Jennifer's boyfriend's name?" Jennifer stood up in surprise. Candy tried to slip away, but Marcus blocked her way. "So tell me, when is he supposed to arrive? Let's wait for him together." Then Marcus had already turned to Jennifer. "Dear, over all these years, you really do not understand who your best friend is. Your so-called friend is only looking for an excuse to spite you. Don't you understand that I don't need anyone but you? And I was going to propose to you today, after the movie." With these words, Marcus took a box from his pocket and opened it and handed it to Jennifer. "Marry me and don't listen to anyone." Candy stood silently and glared at Jennifer with an angry, envious look. Marcus turned to her and sternly told her to go away and never show up on his future wife's doorstep again. Candy still tried to shout that she had been friends with Jennifer out of pity, but the couple could no longer hear her angry words over the closing door. Marcus hugged Jennifer tenderly and whispered softly that she was the one and only and that he was going to make her the happiest. Jennifer smiled joyfully and nodded, looking at the glittering ring on her hand.